Hello, I'm Jim Swartz. I'm on the exhibit committee at MAFAC, and I'm welcoming you to the exhibit presently on display, Studio One. Visit the exhibit program. We're do an interview of KelseyBasset and Kelsey, and they happen to be brothers-in-law. I'm lucky enough to have both as students back when I fell off the wagon, the Laura Ingalls Wilder Prairie Wagon, and started teaching at Southwest State. And they were really great students, and both have graduated. Let's see, Dave, you are in graphic design, and in Oak, you are in theater.
That's right.
And both are musicians as well, do a lot of jamming and other events, and often connect the music with the art and performance that they do. And since the show is about and essentially sampling music and producing images about music and content, it's a great tie-in, I think. And so that you can kind of explain what you do and how it helps funnel content into the art that you produce. And I think a young person or somebody that grew up listening to music, I know I grew up, I suppose, with heavy music in the 60s and 70s. I can probably relate directly to most of it. And I think the younger audience will be more connected to their phones and music in a digital way.
Right.
I do remember the tactile sense of record album covers and going to record stores and handling the materials. I still like CDs, as opposed to digital files, downloading those. So why don't you begin and talk a little bit about this whole event that you guys are doing.
Sure. The name of the show is Solid Wall of Sound, and it's inspired by a Tribe Called Quest song that features Elton John. It's a hip-hop song that features Elton John. And since our work is inspired by music and it's on the walls, we thought Solid Wall of Sound would be an appropriate name for the show. After much consideration, we decided that would be a good name for the show. We have an artist reception June 24th here at MAFAC. I believe it's from 2 to 4.
Yes.
And during that time, I'm going to have my brand new mobile screen printing shop called the Screening Eagle. It's a 1959 Shasta camper that was remodeled into a mobile screen printing shop. And so we're going to have that here. That'll be the first public display and use of the Screening Eagle. This is kind of what it looks like, a black and white version.
And it's an old school teardrop trailer.
Yes.
Couldn't be cooler.
A canned ham. And so we'll be doing some printing from the Screening Eagle. If it's a nice warm day, we'll be right outside of the Screening Eagle and doing it. Oops. And so back to the artist reception, that's on the 24th, and then we have 2 printing parties that are happening at the pub/extra innings patio, outside patio. We'll be able to park the Screening Eagle, the camper, inside the patio, and we'll be able to kind of have a printing party. We'll be doing some event shirts. We'll have a few different designs for people to choose from, and we'll have some new works that will be possibly on display inside the camper. So that's coming up, and it's all going to be related to this MAFAC show. As you look around, all of the things on the wall are inspired by music to some degree, from the giant cassette tape to the old school wall of party flyers or show flyers from the 1990s. So it's kind of got like a green room at First Ave or 7th Street entry kind of a feel. And as you look around, we've got marching bands, hip hop inspired stuff. Most of the stuff that I do is inspired by hip hop, and as Jim mentioned, sampling music is something that I do, that Oak and I have been doing for a long time. We're both sampling artists as well as musicians, and so we're trying to do some kind of visual representation of sampling in music. So some of the stuff on the wall is things that I've done, and some of the stuff on the wall are things that Oak has done, and some of the things are collaborations between Oak and I. The party flyers, that was the idea that Oak had. So what was the inspiration there, Oak?
Well, I just thought it would be fun to, it's called Solid Wall of Sound. And a lot of times, like in especially bigger cities, there's areas where there's flyers on top of flyers, and they just kind of stack them up on top of each other. And I thought it would be kind of fun to kind of try and do that. These are posters that I had saved from shows that Dave and I did when we're kind of still in the band, the Teabags. But when we were doing shows around Marshall, like in 91 to 93, somewhere in there, these were flyers from the show, and I had saved them. So I thought it'd be fun to, since Dave and I were both in that group, to, pull them out and kind of make a wall of posters, using those old posters.
Posters were still are very collectible. You
Right.
even see them featured on PBS's Antiques Roadshow.
Oh, yep,
And of
sure.
course, if you go to record stores, you'll see a lot. I'm sure if you went to the Last Stop CD Shop in Marshall, there'll be some around. But you go to Minneapolis and other larger cities, it's really an essential part of the communication of the music and the expression of the music.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Right.
And you mentioned, like Wall of Sound. I didn't know, growing up or being on the U of M campus for a long time, they had kiosks with layers and layers and layers of posters out there.
Yep.
It was very, very cool, and all the record shops and the performance venues would have those as well.
Right on.
Really, really cool, and that really is a nice tie-in to that. It has the same feel for me as
Cool.
being in those places.
Neat.
And of course,
That's what I'm trying to do.
Dave has, you did a book on record stores, so it isn't like they're foreign to you.
Right,
in
yeah,
New York
that's
City.
true. You're right, that's true. I lived in New York City 2008, 2009, and I'm a vinyl fan. I collect records, I DJ, I play in groups. And when I was in New York City, I wanted to visit all of the New York City record stores. And when I was out there, at the time, it was before Instagram, and it was before Facebook, and all of the social media really kind of took over. And so like a little pocket guide book was kind of a pretty novel idea, in my opinion. And so I interviewed all of the record store owners at the time, and I kind of rated each record store based on the content, what kind of a store it was. And I included maps, subway maps, in my little pocket guide. And then a couple of years later, Instagram and social media really kind of took off. And so pocket guide in the kind of traditional sense became a little bit obsolete. And I kind of I threw around the idea of making an online record guide, one that could be changed, but people have the ability to find the record stores, and everything that was in my book in 2009, people can find just as easily on their phones nowadays. It's kind of been replaced with the iPhones and various devices. But the book exists, and I wrote it, and it's about New York City record stores, Pocket Guide to New York City record stores. That was my first and only attempt at writing a book, really. And I did the design with the help of my fellow graphic designer, Nate Eink. He helped me out at a time when my skills as on some of the computer software programs was a little bit lacking. So I did have considerable help from my friend Nate Eink, who at the time really understood the software programs that I've since learned how to use, but at the time I really relied on him to put some of the stuff together through the software programs. So yeah, the Pocket Guide was going to be the first of 2 books. The other book I was going to do, and I have a digital version of that book. It's a larger, like coffee table book with images from when I was visiting all the record stores. Another friend of mine, a photographer, Lisa Asp, she was with me, and she took photographs of all of the record stores, which is still a digital book, and I may end up making screen printed posters of some of those images. So that's probably how the book is going to end up as a physical thing. It'll probably be posters of record stores in New York City that have since closed. There's quite a few of them that have closed since I wrote the books.
Shoot.
Well, Dave, on the works that you have on the wall here, some are a collaboration with Oak, and since sampling is maybe the main core of the music and the art, pulling images together and pulling content from songs and various artists that you use. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that and how you worked with Oak, both in a music sense and also in an art sense.
Sure. I think maybe this would be a good point to start. The Black Hawk Horns Battle of the Brass. It started out as a series of photographs that Oak had taken with, at the time, his new
Digital
camera. Do you want to maybe tell that initial story?
Sure. Yeah, I got the camera, and I had an idea for a concept of a series of photos, and I'm the guy in the red ski mask, and my friend Wayne is the other guy, and the concept was really just to kind of like use sound as a weapon, and 2 guys are battling each other using just sound. And it was just kind of a fun way to test out my new camera, and they turned out well, and they've kind of continued to, like be revisited, and what I mean, like check them out and stuff like that. But yeah, so it was a fun way to shoot a series of photos with a kind of a funny concept.
Right. The original the idea I had in trying to make the photos that you had taken into like a design that includes them all to sort of tell a story, which is what I wanted to do when I've been enjoying the original photos for a long time, but I thought it would be really cool to make a screen printed a print using those, but I really wanted to tell the story, and so originally I had a couple of ideas of what each frame would say, and I couldn't fill out the entire frames with cohesive kind of a storyline in the sense of this guy doing this thing and then that guy does that thing. Instead, I switched the idea to musical terms, and I think that works out pretty well, and it all ended up tied together pretty well in my opinion. So that's probably one of my favorites. Who's Flat Top Rules in '89? This was a collaboration. The Black Hawk Horns Battle of the Brass was a collaboration between Oak and I. The Who's Flat Top Rules in '89 is a screen printed poster or serigraph, if you want to use the fancy term. But essentially it's inspired by a 1989 hip hop lyric from an artist named Big Daddy Kane. Who's Flat Top Rules in '89 was just like a throwaway lyric from a song. And in '89 there was a fashion fad in hip hop and really in the larger pop culture. And so I combined the hairstyles of various pop and hip hop groups and people to kind of make a homage to the Flap Top from 1989. And so that idea of taking a song lyric and being inspired to make a poster continued. I thought, like, all right, I want to continue with this idea. I want to do more of them. So the second one I did was Wild Like Rock Stars Who Smash Guitars. The lyric is from a Gang Starr song, and Inspector Deck from Wu-Tang Clan is a collaborator, and he's the one who said the lyric, Wild Like Rock Stars Who Smash Guitars. And so what I did is I did some research and found some very popular and iconic examples of smashed guitars throughout musical history. And so I combined them into this little poster that it's fun, but it's also something that you can look at, you can hopefully do a little bit of research of your own. Maybe it'll inspire you to listen to some of the artists. Maybe you're familiar with some of the artists. So that was the second of the lyric-inspired pieces. And then the third was going to be a large-scale poster similar to these other two that would have people or artists that get yanked off stage during a performance, or they yank people off the stage, like Prince pulled Kim Kardashian off of his stage, which is rather famous. And so I was going to have a whole bunch of examples of that, but instead of having one poster to tell multiple stories, I decided that I'm going to expand each story. And so this is part one of the series, The Sound of the Man Getting Yanked Off Stage. And this is inspired by a lyric by Phife Dawg from a song called Mind Power by A Tribe Called Quest from the album Beats, Rhymes, and Life. And this is a historical example of the Grateful Dead, one of their first shows ever as the Grateful Dead. And they were the house band for Ken Kesey's Acid Tests. And this has been recorded, this whole series of events, and it's online. And if you come to MAFAC, the MAFAC gallery, you can actually hear, if you click on the icon right here, that'll take you to the actual online recording of the performance. So that's it kind of crosses boundaries of music styles and music history. This poster right here, the Remembering Prince poster, this is an event that Oak and I did in Curry with the assistance of Jim and our friend Jesse White. Jesse White, he helped us out. He helped us by letting us use his space. He's got a very large artist space that he does his work in, and we threw a little party. It was the weekend after Prince passed away, and my wife and I had two options. We could either go to First Avenue and celebrate with everyone else. Well, I guess celebration isn't the right word, yeah. But celebrate the life of Prince and mourn his death, or we could stick around and maybe try to do something on our own. And so I talked with Oak and I talked with Jesse, and we very quickly came up with the idea of a printing party, and we call it Prince. And so this was the down and dirty flyer for it. Jim is wearing...
it's too bad nobody wore the t-shirt. I can model this for everyone here. I think I even printed this one.
Yeah. Jim helped us out with the prints. There was two prints that we were doing. Yeah. This was the flyer version, and Oak did a image of a dove, a crying dove. And so you could, if you attended the party, you could bring a shirt and print a shirt and take it home with you.
They're very rare, and I've worn this in Minneapolis and in Brooklyn, New York, and a lot of people look and ask about it. You know, I probably could have financed my whole trip if I had a suitcase full of them there on the sidewalk. But yeah, a lot of compliments. People really like the fact that it's very subtle.
Yeah.
You know, and they like the color of the purple too. So nice job.
Thank you.
That was a fun party.
Yeah, that was the first, really the first printing party that we did. And so now we're taking the show on the road with the Screening Eagle, but it's essentially the same idea. The event will change, but the concept of introducing screen printing to a public is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do it, because it seems like it's sort of shrouded in mystery how you do screen printing if you're not really fully aware of what goes on. And so it's a way to make screen printing more accessible to people.
Yeah.
That's the idea anyway.
And I remember you didn't have to call an ambulance or the police because I didn't do any dancing. I just did screen printing.
Oh, one thing I should mention that I really, that kind of ties into what we're doing here is during the printing party in Curry, there was a lot of chalk drawings.
Yeah.
And Oak has been for quite a couple of years now. I'm not sure when you started.
Yeah, a few years probably.
You've been doing chalk drawings, and now we've got some of these prints that have some of your drawings, original chalk drawings. So, can you tell us a little bit about the chalk drawings?
Well, here's a good example. This is it's a line from a Midnight Star song. No parking. Or it's actually the title of the song. No parking on the dance floor, and so I added the chalk and to a no parking thing in a parking lot, and then Dave printed this one up. Mostly I just do like picture drawings, but this was kind of a fun kind of a thing to do. I mean, chalk it's not quite graffiti. You can't really get in trouble for it. You know what I mean? But you can still kind of say what you want in kind of a public place. But once it rains, it's going to be gone. But you're not going to get arrested for it. So it's kind of fun.
We've got a large poster of, I believe, 40 different drawings that Oak did originally on the street. How large when you make these? I've actually never seen them. How big do you usually make them?
Maybe like 3 feet by 3 feet, you know what I mean? Sometimes they get a little bigger. They can be smaller too, but that's a general size, you know what I mean? Something that I can photograph with my cell phone standing up, you know what I mean? And I don't have to like stand on a ladder to do it. So, I mean, that's really kind of the constraints that I work with, that's kind of got to be the size, because, I mean, I want to get a decent picture of it, so.
Can we take a look at this poster over here? This is a very good example. This is 40 of Oak's chalk drawings. This is a collaboration between Oak and I, but they all started out as street art chalk drawings that Oak did. And he went through his Instagram account, Monarl Marauder is his Instagram handle, and he chose these images for this show specifically.
Yeah.
To have,
Try to have most of them based on music, have something musical kind of involved. But those were all done, I think they were all done in Marshall at one time, over the course of like 3 years. Just different places, and so it's fun to do. And it's neat the way Dave organized them into this poster. We kind of talked about it, but it was. I'm really happy with the way it turned out.
As I was saying earlier in the introduction, I DJ, I produce music, and I screen print on this next piece, which is a 7-inch record. It all kind of combines together. I designed the artwork for this 7-inch record, and I made the gatefold sleeve. Sifu Hotman, that's a group that includes a couple Minneapolis, St. Paul rappers and myself doing production. Tall Paul, he's a Native American rapper from St. Paul. And so I actually made this entire cardboard sleeve by hand. And by making it, I mean I cut out from a square and I glued together this whole thing. Screen printed, 5-color screen print, and striking a match. And then after that, I thought it would be fun to have an actual match. So I made a matchbook. And so initially, if you bought the record, you got one of these cool match boxes, hand screen printed. So in addition to records, we also have cassette tapes. Over here, Oak has an inspired oversized cassette tape, obviously. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me, although my little son thought it looked a lot more like Darth Vader than a cassette tape. But he's not all that familiar with cassettes.
Yeah. Tried to leave it just a little abstract, you know, so it's more shapes and lines, but, you know, to people who are fans cassettes, play cassettes, they, you know, can recognize it pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, this whole show was sort of like a mixtape of musical genres displayed visually, or inspired, you know, music inspired, and then it's sort of like a visual mixtape. So yeah, to me, it makes sense to have a little, a mixtape.
Right.
Yeah, there was just two interesting programs on PBS. One on the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. That was really the first innovative layering and layering and layering and mixing and over-layering.
And done on a 4-track, I mean,
Yeah,
amazingly enough.
to produce it.
Yeah, 4-track.
And then there was another one with Jack Black did a recording of various artists, I think one-take sessions using turn-of-the-century mechanical record cutting equipment. And
Cool.
they mechanically cut the album.
Nice.
Two really interesting programs about the way music's produced. I think, too, remember, I think years ago you'd think that CDs and record albums would be toast. You wouldn't even see them now, but now they're record album stores and CD stores just across the street is the Last Stop CD shop. So I think that the content of the music and the images and the tactile nature of posters and records and things is going to hang around for some time. And you're contributing to that.
Trying to keep it alive. Keep
That's right.
vinyl alive and the analog sounds alive. Visually at the MAFAC Gallery. We're open until July 7th. And we have artist reception on the 24th. June 30th, we have a printing party at the pub. And to close this show out, July 7th, we have another printing party at the pub.
The 30th.
The 30th and July 7th.
Okay, great. To them, and they'll come and see the trailer and how to print T-shirts. I think everybody in the universe has at least one T-shirt. So.
Bring a shirt, print a shirt.
And thank you for taking time to watch this. It'll be go right into the Smithsonian, I think, immediately after Alex edited it. And so these two guys will be famous, and probably the purple T-shirt will be famous. That'll be what
Definitely.
I'll be known for. Right. Thanks for visiting MAFAC, and thanks Studio One for recording this for eternity.